What if I told you that every empire announces its own collapse, not with war, but with the rise of gold? Every empire has a final heartbeat. It doesn't fade in a whisper, it echoes loudly through the price of gold. When Rome was on the edge of collapse, gold rose. When Spain's golden fleets stopped returning, gold rose. When Germany printed itself into madness, gold rose. When Lebanon's banks froze the savings of its citizens, gold rose. And today, gold is rising again, faster, louder, and clearer than at any moment in modern history. Some call it coincidence, but history calls it the final warning. The kind of warning that does not repeat. The kind of warning that only a few ever recognize in time.
This is not a story about gold. This is a story about trust. Because gold does not rise because it becomes more valuable. Gold rises when faith in everything else is collapsing. When people no longer trust their banks. When nations no longer trust each other's currencies. When governments borrow more than they can ever repay. Gold becomes the final language, the last honest measurement of reality. There is a hidden pattern that every empire has followed without exception. The empire rises. The empire overspends. The empire prints money to hide the weakness. The people begin to doubt. Gold rises. The currency collapses. The empire falls. And today, the pattern is unfolding again, this time on a global scale.
Empires are not destroyed by invasion. They are destroyed by the weight of their own promises. To maintain power, they must feed armies, control territories, and satisfy citizens with benefits, security, and prosperity. But prosperity is expensive, and when tax revenues cannot keep up, governments turn to the oldest trick in the book. They weaken the currency, quietly, slowly, invisibly. They tell the public everything is fine while devaluing the money in their pockets. People do not feel it at first. Prices rise only slightly. Salaries seem to keep up. But underneath the surface, trust is eroding. Until one day, the illusion breaks. And once trust dies, there is no recovery.
Chapter 1. Rome, the silver that turned to dust. For centuries, the Roman denarius was the world's most respected currency. A soldier could travel across continents and pay with the same coin. Why? Because it was real, silver, solid, tangible. But as the empire expanded, costs exploded, frontiers stretched thin, armies demanded pay, infrastructure required constant maintenance. Rome had two choices: raise taxes and anger the population, or quietly dilute the money. They chose the second. The silver content of the denarius fell from 95% to 80% to 50%, and finally to less than 5%. The coin still looked real, but it was nothing more than metal coated in illusion. Merchants stopped accepting it. Legions demanded real payment. Local economies collapsed into barter. The currency died, and the empire soon followed. But gold never changed. Gold preserved those who saw it coming. Chapter 2. Spain, drowning in its own treasure. Spain once controlled the greatest flow of gold and silver the world had ever seen. Treasure fleets crossed the Atlantic like floating mountains of wealth. But Spain did not invest. It consumed. It bought luxuries, fought endless wars, and imported what it no longer produced. Gold became not a foundation, but a drug. When the treasure fleet slowed due to storms, piracy, and competition, Spain discovered a terrifying truth. It had no real economy underneath the gold. The empire defaulted on its debts 4 times in 50 years. its currency distorted, its power evaporated. Yet those who held physical gold, stored privately outside the empire's financial system, preserved their wealth as the nation collapsed. Chapter 3. Weimar Germany. Printing the End. After World War I, Germany owed debts it could never repay. So it printed money. At first, no one noticed. Then bread doubled in price. Then doubled again. Then multiplied 1,000-fold. Eventually, a loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. People burned currency for heat. Children played with stacks of banknotes like building blocks. Workers demanded payment twice a day because prices changed between sunrise and sunset. But gold surged. Gold did not suffer. Gold did not panic. Those who owned gold before the collapse remained whole. Those who trusted the system were destroyed. The signal had been there for years, but most ignored it.
Collapse is never recognized by the people living in it. They believe promises. They trust leaders. They cling to hope. It will stabilize. It's just temporary. The government will fix it. They fail to realize the government is the cause.
History teaches collapse, but governments teach stability. Schools teach patriotism, not caution. Textbooks celebrate victories, not warnings. Because if the public understood how collapse really works, they would stop believing in the system holding them in place. The truth is always softened, sanitized, reshaped. The collapse becomes a story, but never a lesson.
Now the signal has returned. Gold has surged beyond $4,000 per ounce, an unprecedented break. Not driven by demand from ordinary investors, but by central banks. China is reducing its US dollar reserves and replacing them with gold. Russia has shifted its strategic wealth into gold. Germany has recalled its gold from foreign vaults. Turkey, India, and even smaller developing nations are doing the same. This is not speculation. This is preparation. Meanwhile, U.S. debt exceeds $36 trillion and climbs daily. Interest payments alone are larger than military spending. Every recession is solved by printing money. Every crisis is answered with more debt. This is the same point Rome reached, the same point Spain reached, the same point Weimar reached. And just like Lebanon recently, a system can fail in a single night. One day the banks open, the next day they do not. One day your savings are accessible, the next day they're numbers on a screen. The collapse is not slow. The collapse is sudden. The erosion is slow. The break is instant. Gold is not rising because it is gaining value. Gold is rising because trust is being lost.
When gold speaks, history is whispering. Prepare. Not with fear, not with panic, but with awareness. Empires fall, currencies die, systems reset. This is not the end of the world, but it is the end of a cycle. And those who understand the cycle survive it. Because gold is not just metal. Gold is memory. Gold is continuity. Gold is the one witness that has watched every empire rise and fall. So now you must ask yourself, quietly, privately, will you recognize the warning before the collapse becomes visible? Because history does not repeat by accident. It repeats because most people never learn.